Hello.
I'll be reading out of class, beginning my Yom Tov class tonight on Purim.
Oh, tonight's on Purim? Oh, okay. That's fine.
Parshat Shekalim on Purim.
Okay. I wrote Shabbos, but no.
Parshat Shekalim Shabbos.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, right. Okay. Considering Shabbos is coming up, I figured it was like somehow you said.
No, I'm talking about Shabbos Shekalim. Hello, Aristio. Hello, Aristio. Hello. Does anyone hear me? Hello.
Shalom, Rabbi. How are you?
Hi, Aristio. How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much for asking.
You are from where?
I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
From where? Texas.
Yes, San Antonio.
Who's your rabbi there?
I mostly learn with Rabbi Elia, to be honest, but I attend the Chabad Center here with Rabbi Block, Rabbis Block, father and son. Rabbi Levi Teldin too.
Familiar names. I don't know who they are, but the names are familiar.
Yes, yes.
What do you do?
I work at a CBD store.
In the what?
CBD store. We
Ah.
sell like hemp products and stuff like that.
Good for you.
I'm actually at work right now.
How are you?
Oh yes, there's my setup right there.
What is it? What do you do? What do you
I'm
do?
just a salesman. I'm just a salesman right now. Sometimes I help out with manager duties once a week. So working my way up.
God willing, you should be successful.
Thank you so much. I'm in. Thank you.
Were you born in Texas?
I was in a town called Laredo, a couple of hours south of here. But I've lived in San Antonio forever, like since third grade or so.
Good evening, everyone. We are going to officially tonight begin the laws dealing with the upcoming holidays, holiday season. The Purim coming up. This Shabbos is called Shabbos Shekalim. We have the Fest of Esther coming up. We have Shabbos Zohar coming up. We know that our custom is that when we finish the holidays, we finish Simchas Torah, Sukkot Simchas Torah, we begin the Torah all over again. There are 54 different sections of the Torah. The Torah is divided into 54 sections. And every Shabbos we read a different section. And once a year we complete the entire Torah. There are 4 special Shabbosos during the year, beginning this coming Shabbat, where there's an obligation, not just taking out one Torah scroll to read the consecutive Torah portion, but there are 4 themes leading to the most important month of the year, which is the month of Nisan. We know that in the Torah doesn't talk about Rosh Hashanah being the first month of the year. The first month of the year is the month of Nisan. This coming Shabbat is called Shabbos Mevorachim Adar Sheni. We bless the upcoming month of Adar, the second Adar. This year is a leap year, we mentioned before. Every 19 years, we have 7 leap years. The Jewish leap year is 13 months instead of 12 months. In order to make a correction to align the solar calendar with the lunar calendar. So the last month of the year is Adar. This year we have 2 others. So this week we're still in the first Adar, but this coming Shabbat we bless the upcoming Adar, which is the last month of the year. It's called Adar Sheni, the second Adar. And always when we have Shabbos, we bless the upcoming month of Adar Sheni, like this Shabbat. We read the first of the 4 sections, the 4 special Shabbosos. They're called Shabbos Shekalim, the Shabbos of coins, half shekels, the Shabbos Zochar, and Shabbos to remember Elimelech, which will be 2 weeks from the Shabbat. The Shabbos Para, the Shabbos of the red heifer, and the Shabbat Chodesh, dealing with the idea of Rosh Chodesh, the Jews going out of Egypt. Those 4 Shabbosos lead us into the first month of the year, which is the month of Nisan. So again, it's a little confusing in the Jewish calendar. On the one hand, we look at Tishrei as Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. But at the same time, the first month of the year is 6 months later, the month of Nisan. A second. So we take out a second Torah scroll this coming Shabbat. And the first 7 aliyot, first 7 blessings that have said over the Torah, the person who gets the aliyah ascends to the bima and gets the aliyah. And after the first 7 aliyahs are read, which covers the entire consecutive Torah portion, this coming Shabbat, it's by Yakel. Then we have a second Sefer Torah, which will be taken out with the first Sefer Torah, and that one deals with the mitzvah of Matzah Shekel. And once a year when there was a holy temple, the Jews were counted, there was a census, and the law is you're not allowed to count Jews. That's the law, you're not allowed to count Jews. In fact, King David made a terrible mistake once counting the Jewish people, and thousands were killed because of that terrible mistake that he made. You don't count Jews. You count their hats, you count their money, you can count their shoes, but you can't count them as people. You're not allowed to. It brings what we call the ayin hara. It's called the jealous eye. So God says to the Jewish people, I want you once a year to be counted in the land of Israel. And when you count the Jews, you'll do it through Jews giving a half shekel, half silver coin. That half silver coin will be donated to the tabernacle, the Beis Hamikdash, Holy Temple, used for the public sacrifices offered daily and on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. There are certain sins that if a person is guilty of, when there was a Holy Temple, you brought a sacrifice to atone for your sin. You spend money on the sacrifice, you had to go and encumber yourself. It was going up to Yerushalayim was not necessarily an easy thing to do. It also was a bit embarrassing. You go to the Holy Temple and you bring a sin offering, and have all the people want to know what was the sin? What did you do? You love, all those interesting people interested in your, so saying, your well-being. So it was a place. It was atonement. You were atoned for your sin. That was a private offering. Those were offered 6 days a week. Aside from that, twice a day, in the morning and afternoon, the Kohen offered for all the Jewish people what was called the Talmud sacrifice, the daily sacrifice, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. On Shabbos, you had an additional sacrifice called the Musaf sacrifice. Yom Tov also, Musaf means additional. Those sacrifices were offered on Shabbat, even though involved violating Shabbat, because slaughtering an animal is a violation of Shabbos. You can't slaughter an animal on Shabbos. You can't kill a mosquito on Shabbos. Can't do that. You can wipe it. You can try to push it away, wave it away, but you can't kill a mosquito on Shabbos unless it's dangerous, something else. But just to kill an animal, you can't kill an animal on Shabbat. The exception was on the Shabbat in the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple. There, they offered the public sacrifices, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and another one, an additional one called the Musaf sacrifice. And those sacrifices offered every day for the sake of the Jewish people. Everyone had a portion in that. Everyone was a partner, so to say, to that. Everyone gave this half shekel, which was collected during the month of Adar, the second Adar, which is coming Shabbat. Again, we'll be blessing the upcoming month of Adar, Sheni, the second Adar. All the half shekels were gathered, and once the month of Nisan came, which is the first month, again, this coming next week will be beginning of the last month of the year, Adar Sheni. So when there was a holy temple, every Jew gave a half shekel throughout the cities of Israel. They were collected. There were boxes there, stuck boxes, people put in half shekel. And all that money was brought to Yerushalayim. And those half shekels were used to buy throughout the year the sheep and goat offered daily. As I mentioned, therefore, this Shabbat, when we take out the first of four sequential Shabbosos, four theme Shabbosos, first we have the idea of Tamid, that everyone gave a half shekel, and we offered a communal sacrifice, which joined all Jews together. The Jews became what we call a tzibur. Tzibur means a unit, a group of people who form a unit are called a tzibur. Kehillah, congregation, they're called a tzibur. And therefore, the first step in the process of redemption, because before Shabbos lead to the month of Nisan, the Gemara tells us, Nisan Nigalo, Nisan the Jews were redeemed during Nisan, and the best time for the Jews to be redeemed through Mashiach will be Nisan also. So redemption itself has four steps bringing it to the month of redemption. The first step is the Shabbat. So this Shabbat begins officially, so to say, the holiday season. The idea of giving together as a group, like tzibur, the money became the money of the tzibur of the community sacrifice. First thing, you got to be part of the community. You need help from people around you. That's number one, the redemption. The next step will be 2 weeks from now, the Shabbos of Zohar. Shabbos, remember what Elimelech tried to do to us, tried to destroy us. And if we have a mitzvah obliterating Amalek, there is the external Amalek, the nation of Amalek. There is the internal Amalek, which is the evil from within all of us of an animal soul that tries to drive us off course. We have to try to obliterate that. That's the next Shabbos. The Shabbos, it's not consecutive, it's for sequential Shabbos. So this Shabbos is Shekalim. The next Shabbos, 2 weeks from now, will be the day of Zohar. Then we have the third Shabbos, is right after Purim, will be Para, dealing with the red heifer, purification process. The fourth step is Chodesh, the day of renewal. But this Shabbos is Shabbos of Shekalim. We focus on the half shekel average you gave. This is the will should I give more, and a portion I give less. When it comes to the essential essence of the Jewish soul, there are no differences between Jewish people. You might have some a little smarter, less smarter, a little more emotional, less emotional. Those are all external features of the Jewish soul. But at its core and essence, all souls are alike. And each Jew give half a shekel to show that you're not complete without the help of other people around you. You need other people around you. You can't do it yourself. Life is too complex to do things yourself. I'd like to mention that tonight is my mother's yard site. My mother is Zelda Bas Moshe Levi, but Hashem have been in heaven. And this class is dedicated to my mother Zelda Bas Moshe Levi. We also have in mind people, communities in Ukraine. There are many people living there, many Jewish people living there also. I have in mind that I'm learning should be in a merit to those people living in Ukraine. So they said this is called the Shabbos of Shekalim, which underscores the idea of also they have shekel. And which you gave as even though it was given to the Beis Hamikdash, the half shekel represents the tzedakah that people give, the charity people give. The Gemara tells us, Talmud tells us that throughout Moshe Rabbeinu's life, he was very smart, as you know, he was a super genius, aside from being a tzaddik. There are three things that confounded him, three things that he didn't understand. He needed God's help. One thing, God gave him the mitzvah of sanctifying the moon, the first crescent of the moon, first sliver of the crescent of the moon. And Moshe had difficulty trying to figure out what's called the first crescent of the moon to make Rosh Chodesh. Number two, Moshe had a difficult time making the menorah. He needed God's help in making the silver menorah, the golden menorah. Number three is this. God told Moshe once a year the Jews should give this mitzvah of half shekel. And he didn't understand what God meant until God showed him a fiery shekel and said, this they should give. That's what the Medrash says. Now, the Medrash has its own language, very rich poetry and language. What does it mean? What does the Medrash mean? God showed him a fiery half shekel. So the commentators explain that the verse says, in this week's Torah portion, it's coming Shabbat, each Jew should give half shekel, and this will bring atonement for the soul, for sins. So Moshe was confounded. Why would a half shekel, which is maybe worth 25, 30 bucks, why would that bring atonement for the sins of a person? If there are many sins can be quite severe, quite serious. And God showed him the half shekel of fire. And then when you give this tzedakah to the Beis Hamikdash, and you do it not in a dispassionate way, but you do it with passion, with excitement, with fire, and that fire is able to bring atonement for your sins. So therefore, this Torah portion of Shekalim underscores the importance of giving tzedakah. We usually are familiar with giving tzedakah for the poor, which is obviously a very important mitzvah. But when a person gives, in this situation, we're talking about giving money to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Holy Temple, for sacrifices, this is also called tzedakah. And when you give even only half shekel, maybe only half, but you give it with all your fire, that itself will bring atonement to the soul for sins that a person has been guilty of. The mitzvah of half shekel, even though we read about this coming Shabbat, we have the custom on Purim Eve. This year, Purim is 3 weeks from tonight. Purim, Wednesday night. On Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday is a fast day. It's called the Fast of Esther. It's not clear why we fast the Fast of Esther. What's that all about? For those who say that the Jewish people fought the Haman's people on the 13th of Adar, the rest of them 14th. And for those people who were not fighting, it was a fast day. If you weren't fighting, if you were in the war, you didn't fast. But if you were not in the war, you fasted. So the day of Erev Purim, Purim Eve, was when the Jews fasted, those who were not fighting the war. And therefore, that's why it became a fast day. We know in Judaism we have 3 types of laws. There's Torah law, there is prophetic law, called the Kabbalah, and there is rabbinic fences around the law. So Torah law would be fasting Yom Kippur as a Torah obligation. It says in the Torah clearly that on the 10th day of the 7th month of the year, Rosh Hashanah is the 7th month, Yom Kippur is the 7th month. It says you fast for Yom Kippur as atonement. That's a Torah fast. Then we have those fasts recorded in the scriptures. We know when Moshe Rabbeinu dies for the next 900 years, we have prophecies. We have people like Joshua was a prophet, Isaiah, Samuel, Ezekiel, Yoel, Malachi. There in the book of Zechariah, it talks about 4 fasts, which are, as I said, they're not rabbinic, they're more than rabbinic. They are scriptural, but they're not from the Chumash. And they are the fast of Tzom, the fast of Gedalia, the fast of the 10th of Tevis, when the walls of Yerushalayim were surrounded by the Babylonians, which is the beginning of the end. We have the third fast, which is the fast of 17th of Tammuz, when the Romans broke through the walls of Yerushalayim. We have Tisha B'Av. So we have one Torah fast, 4 those which are scriptural, and then another fast, which is rabbinic, which is the fast of Esther. The fast of Esther is not recorded in the scriptures whatsoever, which means the fast of Esther makes it more lenient than others. Usually when it comes to these fast days, they're important fast days. Certainly the most important fast day is Yom Kippur, but all the fast days are significant. And the scriptural fast days are obviously very significant from scripture, but even the fast of Esther, which is a Jewish custom, that's a Jewish custom which took hold, got traction, and became a very important fast. So not this coming, 3 weeks from tonight will be the first night, will be the night of Purim, Wednesday Eve. And Wednesday, during the daytime, we will be fasting called the fast of Esther. If a person is sick, if you're very weak, if you're pregnant, if you're nursing, you don't have to fast. But if you're healthy and strong, you should be fasting. And the fast will be broken after the Megillah is read, which is a pretty long fast. We're changing the clock before the Sunday night, the Saturday night before Purim, we change the clock. So the fast will end pretty late. Not only that, usually you end the fast, most fast days, and when the stars come out. The Megillah, the fast of Esther, is unique in that this fast continues until after the Megillah is completed. There's some people that will break the fast right after the stars come out before the Megillah and take some coffee, and that's a custom that some people have. But most of us have the custom of not breaking the fast until Megillah is completed. On I said Wednesday night, as I told you, there's a fast of Esther. I'm sorry, Wednesday night is Purim. But Wednesday afternoon at the Mincha service is when the custom is we'll have in the synagogue half shekels, $half. And everyone picks up those 3 half dollars and you put in the plate $1 or $2 for tzedakah. And that is a custom that we have to remind us of this mitzvah of Maksah Shekel. So again, this Shabbat, we read about the half shekel as part of the maftir. The second Torah scroll deals with the maftir, the theme, the short maftir. We know that we have the 7 Torah readings of the Torah, 7 Liyot, and then we have the maftir. The maftir reads one section of Torah and then reads the entire half Torah from the scriptures. This Shabbat we read about the mitzvah in the maftir of the half shekel, which was when there was a basic English, they had the mitzvah because there were sacrifices. We have no sacrifice today, so therefore the law does not exist. But there is the custom. So this coming 3 weeks from today, Wednesday towards the evening after Mincha, we will go to the shul, and there will be 3 half shekels for everyone to lift up, for every member of your family. And that's called the minhag, the custom of Maksah Shekel. So that's this Shabbos. 2 weeks from the Shabbos, we'll have the Shabbos called Zohar. So again, this Shabbos is Shekalim, one of the first of the 4. Next Shabbos will be a fast, that is. We take a fast, we don't take this out of the second Sefer Torah. But 2 weeks from this Shabbos will be Shabbos Zohar, which according to many authorities is a Torah obligation to listen to the Torah as it's read, the end of the Torah section, the second Sefer Torah dealing with the maftir of Shabbos Zohar, talking about how Amalek tried to destroy the Jewish people and the Jews left Egypt. There was only one nation that tried to start up with the Jews. That was the nation of Amalek. All other people realized that the Jews were God's people. After all, God split a sea for them. God slammed the Egyptians with 10 different plagues. God gave them the man. Who's going to start with the Jews? Amalek are those who have the chutzpah, the audacity, the stubbornness to start up with the Jews, even though they knew the Jews were God's people. And they got their butts kicked in. They lost the war. Jews won the war. And Amalek represents both the stubbornness of a person, his arrogance, his frigidity when it comes to spirituality, And therefore, we have this mitzvah of obliterating Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to us. Remember, there's a present Amalek within ourselves today, that exists today. And the mitzvah of destroying Amalek. That's going to be 2 weeks from the Shabbat. Then we have the holiday Purim, 3 weeks from tonight. And as I said, in the holiday Purim was Wednesday night. Wednesday is a fast day. It's the custom to have a fast day. And Wednesday night, we have an obligation of listening to Megillah. There are 2 obligations to listen to Megillah. One on Wednesday night, one on Thursday. In fact, the Thursday one is more important than the Wednesday night one. Thursday one is prophetic because it comes from the scriptures. The obligation, that is. But the Thursday morning Megillah reading, Wednesday night is rabbinic, and Thursday is scriptural. So you have an obligation of going both Wednesday night and Thursday. But of the 2, Thursday is a little more significant. The Megillah does not have to be read in a shul. You don't even need a minyan. But every man and woman has an obligation of listening to every word of the Megillah. The Megillah is different than the Torah reading. When the Torah is read in the synagogue of Shabbat, you should be listening. But if you miss a word here or there, you're still okay. When it comes to Megillah, the obligation is to listen to every word of Megillah. If you miss a word or 2, it's a problem. You usually got to repeat the Megillah. Megillah is important because it talks about the fact that the Jews were in Golus. And despite it all, we have the miracles of salvation of the Jewish people. The Gemara says, "Pursumeni Yisodef," something which comes and advertises the miracle of how God protects the Jews, is more important than most other mitzvahs. And therefore, when it comes to reading the Torah every Shabbat, as I said, reading the Torah every Shabbat is not a Torah obligation, it's rabbinic. And if you miss a couple of words, you're still fulfilling the mitzvah. When it comes to Megillah, that's unique. You got to listen to every word of the Megillah. Now, some people are OCD, and they're always afraid they might be missing a word of Megillah, and that's obviously not the idea behind it. You should be listening to every word, but you can't get too over cautious or over anxious. The word I meant to say, you shouldn't, don't get too over anxious. If you're listening to Megillah, you probably heard every word. So you don't have to assume the words that you probably missed words. But that's why many people, when it comes to Megillah, try not to bring babies to shul, because if the babies come to shul and they start screaming and crying, people miss words, that's problematic. So it's better if you not to bring babies to shul. You got to bring kids who are able to listen. We have in our shul a special service on Wednesday night for kids. We have an adults service. We have a kids service. So that's so mitzvah on Wednesday night is to listen to the Megillah. That's your one mitzvah. The next day we have the mitzvah, not just listen to Megillah, we have the mitzvah of, aside from Megillah, also on Wednesday night when we pray, we have a special insert in the Amidah called the Al Anisim, talking about the Nes, the miracle that took place. And that is throughout the entire Purim. We said the Al Anisim, both in the benching, Bishop meals, and in the Amidah. Well, Thursday also, we have, aside from that, we have the mitzvah on Thursday of Shalach Manes, which is giving gifts of some food to a friend, to one friend. And the mitzvah of Matos Lavim, giving 2 monetary gifts to poor people. On top of that, there's a mitzvah on Purim of having a special Purim Suda. Now, in terms of working on Purim, technically one can work on Purim. It's not like Shabbos, it's not like Yom Tif. You know, Purim is rabbinic, like Hanukkah is rabbinic. One does not have to take off the day of Purim from work, but you got to be in shul at least for Wednesday night and Thursday to listen to Megillah. Ideally, you should be listening to Megillah Thursday morning. If you didn't listen to Thursday morning, you can read it throughout the day, anytime during the day. But ideally, do it in the morning. When it comes to mitzvahs, we try not to push off mitzvahs. So it should be in the morning. And as I said, in terms of working though, there are people who take off the entire Purim. In our society, American society, has become more and more the thing to do. People are more independent. People are more frummer today. When I was growing up in the Bronx in the 50s and 60s, most frum people worked on Purim. They didn't have the capacity not to work. They needed the money. They didn't have the wealth we have today in America. In the 50s, didn't have that wealth in America. Most people worked on Purim. Today, I would say most people in the frum community try to take off Purim. It's not a full day. They try to take off a half day. And if you're in a position to do that, you certainly should try to do that, because we look at Megillah as the book of Esther and a holiday. As even though it's a holiday that a person can go to work and you can drive in a car, but next week we'll talk about how special Purim really is in terms of Kabbalistic teachings, why it's so special. Any questions on anything we've discussed today about Shabbos Shekalim, Shabbos Zachar, Fast of Esther, reading Megillah? Any questions on what we discussed today? We'll continue next week. But in the meantime, any questions? Anyone would like to, anything you'd like to know?
I have a question.
Okay.
So what if you, for whatever reason, can't make it to shul or can't make it to a Megillah reading? Can you read it at home?
It's certainly better than doing nothing, but the mitzvah is reading it from Megillah. So you don't get the mitzvah. The mitzvah is very specific. You got to do it a certain way. You got to read the Megillah or have someone read it for you. But reading at home by yourself from a chumash is better than nothing. It's obviously better because the theme of Purim is an important theme. So at least you're doing something which is significant. You're studying the Torah, like studying Torah, because Megillah is part of the Torah. But the mitzvah of reading Megillah can only be done if you actually read the Megillah. Now the question is, can you listen? Can you listen to someone over a telephone, or can you do it over what we're doing now? Can we do it over? This is
Zoom.
Zoom, right? Zoom. Can you do over? Thank you. Senior moment. Can you do over Zoom? So most poskim say you can't. Most poskim say that because when someone's reading, you're listening to someone over Zoom or over telephone, that person who's reading it for you, their voice has been changed a bit by the different mechanism that you use. So most poskim are of the opinion that you can't do Havdalah over telephone, even though there's no Shabbos issue, because most poskim, when the Torah says, if someone says something to you and you listen, it's good, as if you're listening to the person's his actual voice. But if that voice is being mauled a bit and changed a bit, transformed a bit, then the idea of listening is not going to help you. There are some poskim who are more lenient, and they allow this. For those who are more lenient are in the minority position. Most rabbis will say, don't. But if you have no other choice, and it's a question of doing nothing or listening over Zoom, I certainly will listen over Zoom. Yes, we do that. But again, in the most poskim, you would not fulfill that mitzvah of reading the Megillah.
And would that same logic apply to, say, watching a YouTube video of a recording of a rabbi reading from the Megillah in shul? Would the same
exactly
rule
same
apply?
thing. Same thing.
Okay.
That would be worse. That's not even live.
Got you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So Rav, it should be definitely live, like in real time
Right.
type of mitzvah. Okay.
Yes, that's
Thank
for
you.
sure. But even if it's live, according to most authorities, unless you hear the person's voice, pure voice, that what you hear over a telephone or over Zoom is not valid. But again, there are those say it is. The minority say it is. If you got nothing best, you got nothing better to do, nothing else, so then do that. But it's not appropriate for the most person. Any other questions? Again, Shabbos Zachar we discussed there. We discussed Shabbos Shekalim this Shabbos, 2 weeks from now, Shabbos Zachar. Megillah writing we discussed. Next week we'll discuss a bit more about the halachas of Megillah, and we'll talk about some of the ideas on the story of Purim of Megillah and Kabbalistic ideas connected with the Megillah Esther. We'll go back to Shabbos, Mez Hashem, after the Yom Tov. The next 6 weeks, we'll be focusing on Pesach, on Purim and Pesach. If that's okay with you.
Is there any portion, Rabbi, for women, to like as an obligation to listen to or to read?
Women
Specifically-
have an obligation like men to listen to the Torah, to listen to the Megillah. They have an obligation. And in fact, there's certain minyanim, women minyanim that they actually, women themselves will read the Megillah. You have a Balkari.
Oh, wow, okay.
I know I have a daughter who does that. One of my daughters.
Miriam?
I have 6 daughters. One of my daughters, yep. A
Okay.
little more with it.
Okay, I will contact her. I think I can join her. She lives close.
Who's this? Who's on?
This is Nilu.
Where are you from?
I am from New York. I live in Westchester. So
No,
actually,
that's a different daughter.
oh, okay, not Miriam Lipkowski. Okay.
Miriam she listens to her husband. He reads. We go to them for Purim, Wednesday night and Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
Send them my regards.
Of course. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a wonderful Shabbos. Again, as I mentioned, today's lecture is dedicated to the outside of my mother, Zelda Bas Maisha Levi. Amen.
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 Be well. Have a great Shabbos, and we'll meet you next week.
Shkaya, thank you.
Thank you.